everyone. I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And today is the first episode of TBR Reviews.
TBR Reviews!
It looks better in writing.
It looks better in writing than when you say it, for sure.
So, true story, last night, actually, the power went off in our apartment, and we had nothing else to do. So, I pulled out my laptop, and a movie that I had happened to download is God Is Not Dead.
Yeah. And, he has really good battery life on his laptop, so that's one thing we learned. The other thing we learned is Kevin Sorbo. That's it.
Yeah.
Kevin Sorbo.
So, what is there to say about God Is Not Dead?
Well, let's start from the beginning, and we're going to review the whole thing.
Okay.
And at the end, we'll give it a rating, and then you guys can give your own ratings as well.
Okay. So the film begins, and you know how when a movie begins, the logos for the production companies or whatever come up. At first, this came up, and I was like...
just like Warner Brothers.
The song is exactly like Warner Brothers, too.
Like,
I thought, what? Warner Brothers? I didn't know they were involved. Not Warner Brothers. Los Duros Incorporated.
With a WS in the background? With the same shield. What?
I have no idea how Warner Brothers has not sued the shit out of them.
But they even have, like, the studio in orange in the background waving beforehand, and then they go to the cloudy with the shield. They should get sued right now.
So the movie did not start off to a promising start.
No.
Immediately copyright infringement, which I'm all for, but,
yeah, you know.
Not in this case.
As you move on, you hear Christian rock music with credits and stuff, obviously.
You get the credits of Kevin Sorbo, the likes of Dean Cain, so you know you're in for a wild ride.
Yeah, that's going to be good. We have 2 superheroes. That's 2 more superheroes than I expected.
Yeah. And then you get a short montage of the various characters that are going to appear in the film, because, my God, this movie has more subplots than anything I think I've ever seen. It's like the Valentine's Day of Christian propaganda.
I would call it, last night we called it, while we were sitting on the couch together, the crash of Christian propaganda. It's just like that. And so you have the white guy who's the protagonist, his girlfriend who, spoilers, is a bitch. Then you have the token Asian. Then you have, there's no token black kid, is there, though?
No.
That's weird. But actually, it's not that weird.
Okay. The token Muslim woman, of course.
Yeah, and guess what? Her father is abusive, because Muslims are abusive, apparently.
Spoilers. And then we get the brilliant title, God's Dead. Not dead. Co-written by Borat. So we have our main character, Josh, who's beginning as a freshman in college.
And he walks up to the counselor, who is apparently set up outdoors. And the guy warns him. He's like, hey, you're taking this philosophy class. By the way, this guy's an asshole. I noticed the cross on your chest. He's not Christian, so you're going to have a hard time. Okay.
Meanwhile, we have our token Muslim pulling up in the car with her father. She is clearly wearing a hijab. I believe that's a hijab and not a burqa.
I'm going to call it a head burqa.
Okay, it's a hijab. Anyway, she pulls up and she gets out of the car and she takes it off.
She takes it off when he's gone. Like, I don't want to be a Muslim. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens with her later.
So then we're introduced to Dean Cain, a.k.a. the asshole of the movie.
A.k.a. Superman.
Yeah, and he's clearly written off as a businessman who only cares about profits.
Yeah, and turns out he's not religious.
Yeah. I like that in the movie, though, they don't even say he's not religious until almost the end of the movie. Yeah. But clearly, as an audience, we're supposed to assume he's an atheist because he's an asshole.
Right, and that's a common theme throughout this. I think the best part of this movie isn't the main plot. It isn't even one of the really main subplot characters. There's 2 preachers. There's one from Africa. He's a black guy. Obviously, I guess. And then there's another guy who's just like the local pastor, and they're friends, and they're going to go on vacation together because they're buds, and I guess that's what you do. The whole time, the car will not start, and they can't leave town, and it comes into play later, but the biggest part about them is they have the best scenes because there's a repairman that keeps coming into the scenes to try to fix the car, and he says the funniest shit the whole time.
Hiya, Tom Blanchard, Metro City Auto. Here's your keys.
Thank you.
Satisfaction is guaranteed.
Do I need to sign something?
Absolutely, I'm giving you a car.
You're kidding.
What did you do? Did you break it?
The movie clearly should have been about this guy.
It should have been, because he was brilliantly written. I think almost every joke he made was good, and I laughed out loud 3 or 4 times.
So then we are introduced to Dean Cain's girlfriend.
Yeah. She's a reporter, and she runs into the guy from Duck Dynasty because cameos.
Yeah, and she's clearly painted to be... See, here's the thing. This movie conflates atheism with liberalism. Yeah. Not even just liberalism.
She's like super liberal, too. Because she's like, how can you even hunt animals? It's like, okay, hunting is a business. Like, there are reasons to hunt, and, you know, if they're doing it correctly, whatever. But she's, like, mad about, like, and the ducks die that you make the calls for, right? And he's like, well, yeah. And it's like... this most straw man thing. It's worse straw man than the Sorbo character, in my opinion.
So then we finally get to Josh in his first class with his quote-unquote atheist professor.
And if you watch the trailer, you know how this goes. You have to write on a piece of paper, God's dead, and if you do, then you're okay, and you got a good grade in the beginning of the class, then you can move on. But guess what?
God's not dead, guys.
He isn't.
But my problem with this scene is... severalfold. For one thing, it's a philosophy class, and the professor comes in the first day and says, there will be no debate about this topic.
That's the biggest debate in philosophy. I had philosophy. It was a great class. I think anyone who's had an actual philosophy course knows how philosophy classes go. Debate is encouraged because that's the point. You're taking the class to think, not to be told what's correct. No philosopher that's respected would ever be like, yeah, you can't have an opinion about this.
Yeah. And not only that, but the first day of class, he apparently begins his lecture immediately. If I were in that class, I'd just be like, so are we getting a syllabus?
No.
What? This class apparently has no syllabus.
Kevin Sorbo, can we have a syllabus? I'm Kevin Sorbo, you don't get a syllabus. Sure, I already know the rules. This is Sorbo's class.
Mm-hmm. So Josh, of course, stands up to Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, and his girlfriend and parents are mad about it. Like, don't do it! Yeah. You have a future!
So, of course, he stands up to Kevin Sorbo. He says, no, God's not dead. I know it because... And then Kevin Sorbo's like, well, you have to defend that position. Okay. And Josh is like, oh, okay. So he decides to now have 20 minutes at the end of the next 3 classes devoted to a debate. A one-sided debate. It's not really a debate. He just is supposed to talk at the students.
Yeah, and basically they decide together that the students are going to judge who's correct. And they have this weird scene when they talk about that where they're painting atheists to be like, well, no, I'm right, and you can't ever disagree with me. Because Sorbo goes, well, I will judge who wins. And he's like, well, I don't think you can be objective. Clearly he can't be objective. That's obvious. This is the worst film. And then he's like, well, I think it's ridiculous that why would I give the classroom any power? I am the main man here. In my classroom, I am God. Shut the fuck up, Kevin Sorbo.
So Josh begins his montage of studying apologetics. Soon, though, his girlfriend finds that he is going through the debate that she does not want him to go through with.
For some reason. Like, why would she care?
She's
her argument is, it'll ruin your future. You'll fail this class, and then I came here because of you. I could have gotten into whatever fucking class I want or school I wanted to, but I came for you. We've been together for 6 years, and all we do is hug.
Yeah, no kissing in this movie, even for the couples who've been together a long time. Christian film, don't you know? But I don't understand the logic that she has in this movie, because even if he did fail that class, which he doesn't have to, failing one class in college doesn't mean you fail college. Like,
I don't think she understands how college works. He could even drop it and not even worry about the grade if he fucking failed this first course.
That was the first day, too. Yeah. He could clearly just whatever. Anyways, moving on. So Josh's first argument day comes.
Brings up the Big Bang and talks about how scientists say that there was a giant explosion and then the world was created, or everything was created, 90% of the matter in the first 3 seconds or something. And then he says, you know, like in the passage, let there be light. This is clearly how it would have happened. No.
That to say that, you have to take those sentences and then ignore everything else Genesis says to say that those two align correctly, and they don't.
If God would have said in Genesis, let there be light, and that was the first thing he said, maybe a little bit more valid, but obviously we wouldn't agree with it, but it would be at least coherent. But the first thing isn't that. The first thing is, the earth was formless and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, and then he says, let there be light. There's already an earth before the Big Bang that he's arguing. Fail.
Yeah. And Kevin Sorbo points this sort of thing out, but in kind of a snide asshole
and he
way.
does it with, so you disagree with Stephen Hawking?
Yeah, making the atheist do arguments from authority, which
is just
a bad
awful.
thing to do. I have seen atheists do that, not as much as I see Christians do it,
Yeah,
but...
no.
So we return to our Muslim lady friend, or quote-unquote Muslim. We see her in her house listening to Christian music, and then shortly after she listens to a sermon on 1 Corinthians.
Yeah.
Her kid brother, however, walks in on her,
Yeah.
and she acts like she just got caught fucking herself with the biggest dildo.
And so the brother takes the iPod, looks at it, and is stunned at 1 Corinthians. And then she's like, don't ever tell anyone, swear it! And then he has a long pause and says, I swear I'll never tell anyone. But you know he's gonna tell someone.
Mm-hmm. Now back to Josh in the library, researching more because he felt he did a poor job conveying his argument in the first lecture he gave.
Yeah, and then he meets his Asian friend.
I forget the Asian kid's name.
Walter?
I don't remember.
Wade?
Edgar. I don't know.
Eric.
Anyway, he's from the People's Republic of China.
Yeah.
And he hasn't never heard about Christianity, apparently.
Nope. But he's being swayed just a bit.
Mm-hmm. So we get some interactions between Kevin Sorbo and his girlfriend, who
was a former student.
Yeah.
So it makes him... I don't know, because the scene's weird, and we talked about this while we were watching it. It's either he's creepy, or he's just an asshole.
I'd like to think he's a creepy asshole.
Yeah. The way they shoot it, though, it isn't shot like, ooh, taboo. It's shot like he's just really poor to her, and if he was okay, then it would have gone better.
Yeah. So that night they have a dinner party with Kevin Sorbo and some of his professor friends, probably from the philosophy department, it seems
and
like.
Apparently she serves them. I don't know why that's a thing.
Yeah.
But...
And again, they're conflating atheism with something else, and here it's educational elitism?
Yeah. And also his girlfriend is Christian, and they disagree about that, and he refuses to really talk about it. And when she brings it up at the dinner party, he kind of is an asshole and shoots her down and basically calls her an idiot in front of everyone, which, not cool, Kevin.
No.
Not cool.
So, we cut back to Dean Cain's reporter girlfriend, who is at a doctor's office and finds she has cancer.
Yep. And what do you think this cancer is going to do to her view on God, Hugo?
Well, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and find out. Next subplot.
Then after that, we get Josh's second argument against Kevin Sorbo and his atheist ass, which is basically Bible things.
Yeah.
And he's like, see? Really? Remember? And then he brings up the fact that Stephen Hawking isn't a fan of philosophy and has a quote that says, philosophy is dead. And he's like, ha! You can't use anything he says anymore because he doesn't like philosophy. Well, Kevin Sorbo, if you were using philosophy in the first place, you wouldn't need Stephen Hawking.
I'm convinced this philosophy professor has never taken a class in philosophy in his life.
Out.
But the idea is that we're supposed to see that, although I disagree, we're supposed to see his second argument as stronger than his first.
Right. But not super strong, just kind of like middling. So Kevin Sorbo walks out of the class afterwards, and Josh is walking down the hallway, and Kevin Sorbo grabs his shoulder and spins Josh around and basically says, fuck you, man. Don't you do shit in my classroom. I'm Kevin Sorbo and a philosopher. So, yeah. So he's an asshole and really, really bad at his job and keeping a professional distance from students.
And then we finally see what comes to fruition. The brother did tell the Muslim father that the girl was listening to Bible passages.
She says, I love Jesus, and I believe on him, or whatever the fuck they say. And then he punches her in the face.
Hard.
Twice.
Yeah. And then kicks her out of the house.
And then they're both sad, and there's Christian music playing in the background, and, you know, no atheist has ever been kicked out of a Christian home, goddammit.
Meanwhile, Kevin Sorbo's girlfriend, who's much younger than him, has finally decided, fuck this guy, he's an asshole, presumably because of his atheism. So she breaks up with him in front of his colleagues. Ooh, professional burn.
Yeah. And then we get to the dual biracial pastor bromance. And they help the Muslim girl and say, hey, it's okay, you know, it's all right, Christ takes care of things. Right? Right, guys? And then Josh!
Then we have the final speech from Josh in class, and it's bad. it talks about moral absolutes, which there are plenty of YouTube videos that you can look at about atheism and morality.
Yeah. And then basically his big like checkmate atheist is, why do you hate God? And not just a little bit. He fucking screams in Hercules' face, why do you hate God? And then Kevin Sorbo's character goes, I hate him because he took everything from me. My mom died of cancer when I was 12.
So we find out that the atheist professor antagonist is not an atheist.
No, he's just an anti-theist.
He's not an he's somehow a theist anti-theist. Because he's still a theist by definition. He's still...
Yeah, because he believes in God.
He believes in specifically the Christian God. He's just mad at them. Him, whatever.
And I assume you're supposed to come away with, oh, that's why atheists don't believe, because something bad happened to them. Let me tell you, I've had a pretty alright life. Still an atheist.
So this movie fails in the biggest thing it should have done in explaining why atheists are atheists. They're just mad at God. No!
Right.
No. But, of course, Josh has now swayed the class, and he is now supposed to get an A.
And all but one guy, the fat guy with the neckbeard, stands up and says, God is dead. He might as well have been wearing a fedora and eating broccoli. And then we get the closing loop on Dean Cain's character, whose mother has been sick the whole movie.
With dementia.
Yeah, and so he goes to her, and she can't really be coherent, and he's like, you pray every day, and you have this, and I'm a piece of shit, and I'm successful and happy. Where's your God now? And then she has a moment of lucidity and's like, no, sometimes the devil, gives people good stuff to keep them from Christ.
It's good to know that dementia doesn't affect the part of the brain that causes rationalizations.
And then just to show that it was like borderline an act of God, and then she goes, who are you again? And then he says, Dean Cain, bitch, and then walks out.
And then the closing of the third of 40-something subplots. We have Dean Cain's now ex-girlfriend. Dean Cain broke up with her, by the way, because she has cancer.
Yeah. So she goes, and now there's a Christian concert, the Newsboys.
Who are apparently real, I think.
Yeah, and they have a black lead singer, which is good, and a 40-year-old Australian drummer. But yeah, so she goes and she kind of does her whole reporter thing again, kind of bombards them with questions, and then they're like, you're not really here to ask us questions, are you? She's like, no, I'm dying. And then they're like, let's talk about it, and also pray. And then she's a Christian.
Like that. And then she's like, so is my cancer gone now?
Like,
and they're
no,
like, no,
no,
you're still gonna die.
Yeah.
So Josh talks to the Asian of the movie, and the Asian says, hey, I'm a Christian now because of the thing you said.
And they're like, cool, let's go to this concert.
And they go, okay. And then they go to the concert,
Yeah.
like every other person in the movie.
And then the Muslim girl goes to the concert because presumably the thing she was listening to her on her iPod was the Newsboys. So now everyone's going, and then Kevin Sorbo sitting dark and alone in his desk room. It's a desk room. It's not an office. It's a room with a desk and books.
Looking at the sheets of paper that say God is dead, and then he opens his desk, and there's a letter from his mom, who also presumably died of some disease.
And she mentions how she loves him one time and God 4 times.
So she has her priorities straight.
Yeah, and basically, don't go from God. And then Kevin Sorbo calls his ex-20-year-old girlfriend and's like, call me back, but she doesn't pick up because she's at the concert. And
he gets up and decides, I'm Kevin Sorbo, I'm going to that concert. So he starts walking through the streets. Meanwhile, biracial pastoral bromance is driving in the newly fixed car, and they're like, man, this is going to be such a good vacay. We're going to have so much fun, we're going to high-five, and we're going to eat, like, fried bananas on a stick at Disney. And then the worst of the worst happens. Kevin Sorbo gets fucking T-boned by a car, and he's a pedestrian, by the way.
Yeah.
Hits the ground, and the biracial...
And it starts raining.
Yeah.
Jesus rain. And then the biracial pastoral bromance gets out of the car, and they're like, hey man, it's okay. Jesus loves you. But then Kevin Sorbo says, arguably one of my favorite things in the movie, he's like,
if he loves me, why did he have me hit by the car? And then the reference says, it could be worse. The car could have killed you immediately.
Right. And then I think the black pastor said in his head, right, so now he can suffer.
But the idea is that
he has a last chance to accept Jesus. So biracial pastoral bromance all over top of Kevin Sorbo. People gather. Apparently the guy who hit him, not involved in this at all. He gets a free pass.
Yeah. I'd like to think our headcanon is that it was Dean Cain that hit him.
Yeah.
Because the scene before was Dean Cain leaving in his nice car.
Right, but they never show who hits him.
I think it was Dean Cain, though I don't know.
Hit and run, Dean Cain.
So, as you would imagine, in his final moments, Kevin Sorbo gives his allegiance to Zeus, and he is absconded to Mount Olympus.
And then all the while, there's a concert going on, and they keep cutting back and forth to how good the concert is, and then the music starts playing over top, and then Sorbo dies. And then the black pastor from the from the biracial pastoral bromance says,
verbatim,
What happened here tonight is a cause for celebration. Pain, yes, for just a few moments. But now, think about the joy in heaven.
How the fuck
is that a miracle?
You just witnessed a person die because of a hit and run, and you're like, ha.
No, this is not cause for celebration, asshole. Maybe in Africa this is a good death. Not here. We have homes with electricity and water. And vaccinations. And then on the big screen in the concert, the newsboys are like, check this out, we got a guy who makes duck calls and wears a bandana. Look at him. And on the big screen, he's like, hey, everyone, text your family. God is not dead, because we heard about this debate this kid was going in. Haha, fuck you, that professor. Meanwhile, that professor's dead. And then everyone texts their friends. And then the white guy from the biracial pastoral bromance picks up the cell phone and is like, nice. Picks up the cell phone from Kevin Sorbo, looks at his text, his personal text from a dying man, shows his black friend from the biracial pastoral bromance, and is like, look at that. And it says God is not dead on his BlackBerry. No! That's bad to do! And then at the end of the movie, it says, everyone. What's it say? Be part of the movement?
It says basically, be part of the movement, text everyone in your contacts, God is not dead.
Some of you may have actually gotten texts that say God is not dead. You know how many texts I got? 0, because I chose my friends wisely.
0 for me as well.
Yeah. That's not to say I don't have Christian friends, I just don't have douchebag Christian friends.
Yeah, same here. We have a lot of the same friends.
Fair.
But, and then the movie just kind of stops. I won't say it ends. The movie stops.
Yeah, it doesn't end. There isn't really like, all those story arcs, like, you never see the cancer patient die. You never see what happens to the girlfriend who just lost Kevin Sorbo, even though he tried to apologize at the end. You never see the biracial pastoral bromance go on a vacation. You don't see what happens to Josh, who presumably is going to hook up with the ex-Muslim girl who is now a Christian.
They meet at the concert.
Right, and then the Asian kid never has closure with his father.
Yeah. You ever even see if Dean Cain
Cain doesn't really do shit, he just kind of drives away.
Yeah. I would say this movie doesn't have an ending, but it didn't even really have a beginning. No. This movie meandered beginning to end. Mm-hmm. It was like someone took a poorly written sermon, and I'm saying a poorly written sermon with points that are bad, and tried to write a screenplay around it. Yeah. It's like every forwarded Facebook post your aunt has ever posted, and someone was like, we need to make a movie out of this. The only way this movie could have been worse is if at the end it said, and that young man, Josh, his real name was Einstein.
That would have been a twist. That would have been worth it. That would have been the payoff for the hour and a half we wasted. So basically this was not good, and it wasn't just not good because of the message. It was not good because it sucked at writing, cinematography, directors, even the sound was bad sometimes.
In fairness, we had a cam rip. I'll be upfront about that.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the sound on that part. I'm talking about the mixture between music montage and action, and how the music didn't play towards the mood almost ever, except for when there was an atheist on screen.
So, would I recommend this movie? I would, under these circumstances.
I agree.
If you have a group of like-minded friends, it's fun to sit around, as we did with our girlfriends, and watch it for a laugh. It was good.
We paused it several times, talked about it. Great time.
Would I recommend you buy it or rent it? No.
I would
Download it
recommend
illegally.
you go to the Pirate Bay today, download it illegally, and then send a picture to the producers with a middle finger that says, fuck you for making this. It's awful. What's your final rating for it?
I would give it, I'd give it 2 Kevin Sorbos out of 10.
I would give it 2.5 Dean Cains with a sprinkle of Kevin Sorbo's goatee out of 10.
So yeah, that's God Is Not Dead. It was bad.
Yeah.
We'll hopefully be doing this with other movies in the future, because there are other ones coming out.
I would really like to do Noah.
No, I hear it was a good movie.
You should watch it.
Other movies that are coming out, A Matter of Faith, which is basically God Is Not Dead, but strictly about evolution.
We could watch some Kirk Cameron flick, Fireproof.
Yeah, Unbreakable. No, there's another one.
Unstoppable, I think.
Unstoppable, something like that. Left Behind.
Oh.
Classic Christian cinema. And there's some other ones. But anyways, that's it for now. Don't see the movie, it's bad, unless you want to do it for a joke. Yeah. So, thanks everyone for watching.
Put your ratings down in the comments of how many Kevin Sorbos and or Dean Cains you think it got if you watched it.
You can follow us on Twitter at Bible Reloaded or at Hugo Reloaded. You can donate to our Patreon if you want, or not. I don't care. I do care. Donate. So, until next time, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this has been the Bible Reloaded.